Let's have some fun. This beat is sick. Let's take a ride on Bobcat Blitz right now. Zack, Daly, Nick Dench along with you. Two-man banding it tonight. Talent has been a little thin, but the show must go on. Just going to debate a couple points. So the only news, or the big news on this campus right now, is the men's ice hockey team. Third consecutive week, #1 in the polls. Despite that tie to Brown, I still think they should have been #1, even though despite the tie. Even before the Minnesota tie on Saturday night. I don't know what your view is.
I disagreed. Had Minnesota won, I think Minnesota would have jumped to #1 because sweeping a weekend, not blowing a 2-goal lead in 2 minutes against the Brown team, who's middle of the pack ECAC. They're much better than they usually are. But I really don't think you can blow that lead, especially with the goaltender that you have, and expect to stay #1. I was actually a little surprised they picked up 3 first-place votes.
I mean, I'm a little shocked they picked up the votes too, but I think, look back to the last time that Quinnipiac played Yale and Brown in the same weekend. They go up to Brown, they have the 1-1 tie game. I think we all agree that we should have won. Then they go into Yale and they absolutely shellac them 6-2. They lost 2 first-place votes. They went from 22 first-place votes to 20. Next week's the week they hop over Minnesota after Minnesota loses again. This, the exact same results against Yale and Brown, a win and a tie against the exact same 2 teams. That's the reason I think they, deserve to stay #1 despite the tie, even if Minnesota won. I think you got to weigh the big win against Yale on national television a little bit more than that tie against Brown. And the voters seem that. I still am shocked that they picked up the 3 first-place votes. So that I don't know how they did it.
Yeah, and I mean, this Bobcats team, if there is one thing that I did like, they did score 3 goals on a very good goalie for Brown and Anthony Borrell. He hadn't really played before this year. He's a senior now, but he has been killing it at Brown this year. And, I mean, he held the Bobcats to 1 goal when they were up in Providence. Shut out Yale last Tuesday, 1-0. So he's been a huge part as to why this Brown team is not 11th and 12th in the conference this year like they usually are. This year they're 6, 7. They're right in the middle of the pack, and I know the Bobcats are rooting for them to be in the top 7 going into the playoffs. They do not want to see Brown.
Brown's an absolute. They always play the Bobcats tough. That's a team that always gives Quinnipiac trouble, especially when they come into Hamden, because we saw it. Last year, it took Quinnipiac 3 games to defeat Brown. They've bounced Brown 2 years in a row now in the ECAC playoffs. So it's really a team that Brown gets excited for. They want to beat Quinnipiac. They want to end their season. So that's a team Quinnipiac wants to avoid in the playoffs. Now, if they do have to face Brown in the playoffs, I think I've seen not only in the Brown game, but in just the season overall, especially during this 21-game unbeaten streak and even the games after the St. Lawrence loss, the team seems to show up for the first 5-10 minutes. Get a couple quick goals, go up 1-0, go up 2-0. But then where do they go in the second period, the entire second period, and the first half of the third period? And if Eric Hartzell's not bailing them out, then this is a team that has struggled in some games to hold on to leads like they did in Brown. They didn't play well in the second period or for most of the third period. It ended up costing them a win, and it ended up costing them 2 points.
And I think, I don't really know what's going on through the team's mind when they're doing it. They do come out with a lot of energy game in and game out, and it's nice to see. But I think as the game progresses, maybe the fans play a part of it. The fans seem to die out. The one exception this year has been that Yale game. We saw how much better they performed the entirety of the Yale game, probably one of the more complete games they've played this year for the entire 60 minutes. This Brown game, crowd was really into it. The Brown band was into it. It was nice to see another team's band for once, though
the fans were happy.
Yeah, the fans have fun with the band as well. But you like to see it, and as that game continued to go on, it wasn't the same student section that we've seen since they hit #1, since we came back from break. And it really showed the team seemed to lack energy as the game progressed, with the fans kind of dying out, fans really not showing up until overtime.
I mean, you bring up a good point. Let's compare the students section again in the Yale game against the student section in the Brown game. Obviously, the Yale game is always sold out within a minute of student tickets going on sale. Crowd was in it because, the Bobcats, they get the quick goal 3-4 minutes into the game, and then they have the 2 goals within a minute of each other to put them up 3-0 going into the second period. The student section's in it. They got a safe 3-goal lead, and they were able to play conservative enough in the second period where they didn't give up that lead. So the Bobcats student section, the fans were into that game. They were rocking the whole way. Game against Brown, you do get the early goal. Go up 1-0. But again, any hockey fan knows a 1-0 lead is never, ever safe, even with 10 seconds left. and you're nursing a 1-0 lead. You're able to hold on to that. Brown ends up tying it. And then the Bobcats get the next 2 goals. As soon as I think Brown tied that game, the fan section, especially those who follow the team religiously, who knows how Brown's been a hindrance to the Bobcats in the past, that's when all the fans went, oh no, we're in trouble now. Well, that's when, if those first couple of, those first 2 or 3 rows start to go out of it and really don't get rocked, even though those rows were fine this week, all the other fans kind of feed off what they do and they kind of, back out of it and they aren't as emotionally involved in the game. And, this team said time in and time out again this year, they love seeing that student section rocking. And that's one reason I think they're able to win the UConn game. Not their best game of the year, but again, they get the late goal in the 3rd period because that student section was on its feet the entire game.
Yeah, and I know the team loves it. Last year when they tied Yale, Connor Jones in the press conference, very reluctant that they tied because the entire team knew they should have won. Connor Jones gave a shout out to the entire student section. And I mean, I know a lot of students, they don't watch the press conferences, so they don't know what the players are saying, but they absolutely love having the fans there. And I'm not knocking the fans because they've been great for this team. It's been a great thing for me as one of the fans in the first 2 rows that goes every game. The team, I mean, everybody seems to, even NBC Sports Network was commenting on it in the Yale game. They really loved it. They said a couple things on Twitter as well. So it's great exposure for this school, not only with the team performing, but when students show up, not only do the fans notice, the teams notice, national news notices. This team has been playing a lot better with all the fans, and I love it.
All right, let's look forward to next week. Last weekend of the regular season, you got a road trip to Harvard and to Dartmouth. Harvard, last place in the ECAC right now. Dartmouth, a team that's been struggling to hold on to the top 20 ranking, but they've been able to do so going to the last weekend of the season. Obviously, you look at Harvard as the game they should win, even though Harvard can still be a very talented team, and they're starting to pick up the pieces. They might be a team that's dangerous, maybe even pull that first round upset come playoff time. Dartmouth's the game you really got to look at as, this is a big defining game. You don't want to slip up going into the ECAC playoffs.
Yeah, and Harvard's a scary team. They were projected top half of the conference. I think they were projected for a first round bye.
They were. I think it was
Union Yale.
I think it went Union Cornell.
Yeah, Union Cornell Harvard, and Harvard has been very disappointing this year. They have not played to the extent that everybody thought they would. They didn't lose that many players. Danny Biega, their star defenseman, has not played very well at all this year. I think he had his first goal when they were in Hamden January 5th or 6th. So he hasn't stepped up. Raphael Girard, their goalie, hasn't played very well either. So this team, if they can figure it out, which they are starting to, they're a very dangerous team. The Bobcats can't overlook that. And you said at Dartmouth, they were 8 the first time they were in Hamden. So we've seen how good they can be. They're a lot like the Bobcats. They don't have stars that everybody in the country knows about. They're a good team. If this team can play the way we've seen them, they're a scary team as well. So this tougher weekend than people may realize for the Bobcats this weekend.
Well, the one thing the Bobcats don't have to worry about is where they're going to finish in the East. They've already wrapped up the Cleary Cup. They have the number 1 seed. They're going to have home ice in the second round. They can relax and watch and see who the next round opponent is. Can't be said for the other 11 teams in the ECAC. It is absolutely jammed in the standings. You don't know who's going to finish where. It's going to be an exciting weekend. So pay attention to the games. Watch the Bobcats if you can get a feed online. Pay attention to the out-of-town scores. I know the Bobcats team will be. We're going to come back on Bobcat Blitz. We're going to talk a little bit of women's ice hockey as they are in their playoff season. They host St. Lawrence Friday, Saturday, and Sunday if necessary, so you don't want to miss that. Come on back, Zack Daly, along with Nick Dench here on Bobcat Blitz. Before we get to women's ice hockey, we were just informed by Matthias Gauss here in the back of the media suite that the one and only Miles McQuiggan is on campus. So if he's stopped...
Is that relevant?
I'm just saying, a little tidbit of information out there. And a team that Miles covered at his time here, did PA for, was the women's ice hockey team. So we'll move right into that. I think it's a pretty well-known fact that UJ is going to be playing for Team Sweden for the Olympics next year. Kelly Babstock, though, just got named to the preliminary roster for Team USA. So there's a chance that she will not be back next year for Quinnipiac and that she's going to be playing for Team USA for the Olympics. What impact could that have on this Bobcats women's ice hockey team?
First of all, congratulations, Kelly Babcock. She's earned it. But 154 career points, the only women's ice hockey player at Quinnipiac to be on that white banner next to the men's blue 100 career point banners. So that's a huge impact for this team. They are going to miss Erica Johansson on that power play. She's got a real good slap shot one-timer. I can't think of a reason they can't do it other than the three powerhouse teams above them. But this is a very good hockey team. They're figuring out all the scoring outside of Babstock and Costa. This team not relying too heavily on any one player. Players stepping up. Nicole Brown had 2 goals this weekend. Johansson had 2 goals this weekend. Connery had a goal this weekend. Sid Rusler has been phenomenal all year defensively. Tamberg's been great defensively. I mean, there's not enough you can say about all these teams. And I think for the most part, they're getting healthier. They've been banged up for the past month and a half or so. They're finally getting healthier, getting their key players back. Kristen Eklund missing a weekend. So, I mean, they're all coming back, getting iced up. They've been taking more rest time. It's definitely something that Rick Seeley is finally getting some experience with, taking this team, as you mentioned, with last year's seniors and this year's seniors, from one of the worst programs in the country to one of the better ones. So, I mean, this team finally figuring out what they need to do going into postseason. I think they can make a strong push, and it's definitely something that we're going to have to look forward to the next 2 weekends.
They had St. Lawrence, they are the defending ECAC champion. St. Lawrence was able to beat Cornell at Cornell in the ECAC finals last year. So that, is going to be a great series. Probably going to go 3 games. You don't think either team can sweep the other team. Then, obviously you don't see Cornell, Harvard, or Clarkson losing in the first round. So you got to think it's going to be those 3 plus whoever wins the Quinnipiac St. Lawrence series. So the Bobcats are probably going to have to roll for St. Lawrence, probably Cornell and Harvard or Clarkson. And if I'm the Bobcats, the one team I want to avoid is Harvard, because that's the only team they really haven't played well this year.
No, they've played terribly against Harvard. There's really not another way to put it. They've been shut out both games, probably the only team that they've played twice this year that has shut them out both games. So they haven't been able to figure Harvard out. It is very difficult to beat a team 3 times in the same season in a sport like hockey. So that could be working for the Bobcats if they do end up facing Harvard, but that would be the championship game. So, I mean, it's probably not going to be their favorite team to see. I'm sure they would love to play Clarkson if they reach the championship game. They really played Clarkson tough, losing the last 5 seconds 2 weekends ago. So this is a real confident team right now, and confidence goes a long way in hockey.
All right, we'll be right back here on Bobcat Blitz. We're going to switch things over from the ice to the hardwood floor. We're going to be talking women's basketball to wrap up the show. Nick Dench, Zack Daly here on Bobcat Blitz. Stay with us. Welcome back to Bobcat Blitz. Before we talk a little women's basketball, Kev, thanks for the compliment. I know we look good on air. And hi, Angelique. You're on camera. So, women's basketball. We've been speculating it all season long. We know this team's talented. But, 1 weekend left on the road at St. Francis, Brooklyn, and at LIU. Can they do it? Can they, we've been saying yes, no, maybe all semester long, but, now 2 games left. Can they go undefeated in the conference?
Yes, they can. I don't see any reason why this team can't. They're the deepest team in the conference. They're probably one of the more talented teams in the conference. They're one of the youngest teams in the conference, which gives them a leg up. Maybe conditioning-wise, they're one of the most hard-working teams in the conference. I know Coach Trish Fabry says that this team plays harder in practice than they do in the games, which is ridiculous. I don't know why you would do that, but it's clearly working out for this team. And they've blown both of these teams out this year, and I don't see any reason why they won't blow both of these teams out again.
One of the reasons why I think this team is going to go undefeated as well in conference is because of Samantha Guastella. She's back from injury. She is a person who has the ability to put up a double-double every single game she goes out there. She's good on the glass, she can shoot threes, and she's over 6 feet tall, which is, that's tall for the women's game. She, I think, is the real unsung hero of this team. She doesn't get enough credit, and Tony, one of the sports information directors, he says she is the best player on this team, and I have to agree with him.
I wouldn't say best player on the team. I think she's definitely she's probably the second best player on this team because of her versatility. She's not afraid to step behind the arc and shoot a three, and she's not afraid to miss the three, which is another thing. We see a lot of players at any level hesitate to shoot the three, and that's when they'll take it really bad. She will shoot that ball when she's open, and she's not afraid to miss. She'll follow her shot. You said she's very good on the rebounds, but I do think the best player on this team is Jasmine Martin. She's not afraid to go down low at being a shorter player. She's not afraid to get physical with people. She's not afraid to shoot. She's also one of those players not afraid to miss. And she's been a leader. She's a captain as a sophomore. She's just been so good for this team this year, and she's a great player as it is. Never mind all of her intangibles on and off the court.
I think Jasmine Martin's the best pure scorer on the team. That being said, basketball is more than just scoring points. You need to be able to rebound. You need to be able to dish the ball. Granted, I'd say Jasmine Martin's better at dishing out and passing the ball than Samantha Guastel is. But again, I don't think that Jasmine Martin brings as complete of a package than Sam.
I think if you combine the two, you have the perfect player.
You got someone who's a really good jump shot. You got someone who's over 6 feet tall, can rebound. Yeah, you combine the two, you probably got the best women's basketball player in the NEC. Definitely this year, but you can't combine the two. You take them separately. So you say yes to the undefeated conference. Last question: how far can this team go in the playoffs?
I think they sweep the NEC tournament as well. I think they finish undefeated in conference play, both in regular season and in conference tournament play. I think they can get a 12, maybe a 12-13 seed probably in the NCAA tournament. Don't be surprised if they pull an upset in the NCAA tournament. This is a very good team, and a lot of teams who are in the NCAA tournament have not seen a team like the Bobcats who can run 10 players and do complete line changes and really not skip a beat offensively or defensively. It's a rarity in college basketball and in the pros. So, I mean, this is a very good team. It's a tough team to prep for. Don't be surprised if they get past that round of 64 in the NCAA tournament.
Well, that's going to do it for us here on Bobcat Blitz. Before we go, if you don't follow us on Twitter already, please do so, at Q30 Sports. Tweet at us. Did you like the show tonight with just Nick and I? Who did you like better, myself or Nick?
He didn't do anything.
Yes I did. I facilitated the whole show. So thank you for joining us. Again, we'll be back next week, Tuesday nights, 6:30 here on Q30. Again, thank you for joining us. For Nick Dench and all the people behind the scenes, I'm Zack Daly. We'll see you next week.